Hi everyone. You can post your Q&A in the chat if you want to. Let me introduce Isha's profile and then we'll start by asking her a few questions and then you can add your questions as you feel like. Let me start. So Isha has done her law degree from Gujarat National Law University, Gandhinagar in 2019. And then she has done her MBA from Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies. After that, she has worked at PepsiCo since the last 3 years. She started with a management trainee and promoted to area sales manager, and now she is a perfect store lead in India, which is a position which is very few people are able to. Our roles are open for this position, so I think in India she's uh, only one managing this position. So I think in FMCG profile, this one of the very interesting roles which is a mix of marketing and sales. So we'll learn more from Isha. Can you tell us about your career starting, which is how did you decide to pursue law?
Sure. Okay. Like Alicia said, so I actually did my law from Gujarat National University. So I graduated in 2019, and I interned a couple of times. I had like every break I used to intern because one, it's also the norm for us from the bar council. Also, I just wanted to experience and understand how law is as a profession. While interning towards my fifth year, I realized that I'm not enjoying it as much. I mean, I like law, don't get me wrong, but I don't enjoy it as much because it's a lot of back end work. So I wanted to be, in the more front end part of it. So I decided in my fifth year that, maybe I should pivot and move into something which is like a marketing or a sales role. Why marketing and sales is because I've always been this person who has been, who's been interested in the creative aspects. So I actually have a BA in dance and I'm a trained Kathak dancer and a singer. So I absolutely love the creative aspects in the creative field. So I thought sales and marketing is the perfect bridge for me over finance. So I decided to give the MBA entrance exam and I joined Jamnal Bajaj in 2019. So I'm the first COVID batch and I graduated in 2021. I actually interned at PepsiCo. So my summer internship was with PepsiCo India. So they recruited me via campus placements. So I was recruited in the sales team. And Post my internship, I had a PPI and then I was offered a PPO and I joined as a management trainee in 2021. So yeah, that's a bit about the law and how I landed up in PepsiCo.
But why did you decide to shift from law to management? What was the thought process that went behind that decision?
So the only reason, one of the major reasons rather why I shifted is because I wanted a front end role. I didn't want to, law is basically something that um, the deal is taking place and then you're asked to draft the contract, at least at a junior stage. I interned with law firms. I interned at a lot of chambers too. I interned with an IPR law firm. And The cases were very interesting, but I wanted to work on the front end and not on the back end of things. I didn't enjoy drafting contracts as much as I did, sitting and devising strategies or sitting with a team and, figuring problems out. So that was the reason why I actually decided to pivot.
That's interesting. So you wanted to move to a front end role. So coming to that now, so what is your exact role now? Is it a front end client facing role, and what actually happens in your job in a broad overview? We'll come to the deep dive as we progress in the session, but like for the audience, a summary of your role.
Sure. I'm actually the Perfect Store lead for India. So, Perfect Store is basically a concept most FMCGs have this, and it's a concept where, you're trying to devise strategies or ways to drive same store. So, same store is basically, trying to drive your range, trying to increase your penetration in an outlet. So, this is something that I lead for India. It's actually just a one person team. So I'm the only one, me and obviously my manager, but we're the only ones actually leading this program. And yeah, so my role involves a lot of, it's a bridge actually between sales and marketing. So it's not core sales, it is not pure marketing. It is a bridge, and yeah, it's sort of strategy, but I'm also not in the strategy team. And if you talk about what my day looks like, it's a mix. Every day is very different for me. I mean, some days I'm in market. Since it's an all India role, I all of India is my market basically. So I either have market visits. So I probably like 2 weeks ago I was in Bangalore for I think 8 hours, and then in the evening I had a flight to Pune, and I was in Pune for probably like 20 hours or some 18 hours or something, and then I was back to my base. So that's how it is. So you go and do market, and you understand what the ground level situation is, you know, what tweaks can you make. And if it's a day when I'm working out of office, it involves a lot of stakeholder management. Not to say this isn't a part when I'm in market also, obviously that is there when I'm in market too, but there's a lot of stakeholder management that's involved. And yeah, you're just trying to troubleshoot things, you're trying to devise strategies. So that's probably how my day looks like right now.
Yeah, Isha, thanks for explaining about that. So I'd like to tell the audience, if they have any questions, please do keep posting in the Q&A. We will take your questions also along with what questions we have. So please do post it. So Isha, a question regarding your MBA. So what you have learned at MBA, somehow any part of that help you in your job? Is there some things which you have learned that you are able to apply here?
Of course. So during my MBA, so bear in mind I was the COVID batch. I had college for around 7-8 months. I was in college for that, yeah, 7-8 months, like physical college, like offline college. And post that we moved to the online mode. So I still remember in my second year we had this session. We had a series actually, which was sales and distribution. So I think that probably helped a lot, because that gave me understanding of what the sales and distribution looks like in, you know, the sales and distribution system looks like in marketing and in FMCG organizations, rather in all organizations, but specifically in FMCG, which helped me more so as a management trainee, as an ASM. And obviously the learnings from that are what I implement into the Perfect Store lead pro role that I have right now.
Okay. Thanks, Isha, for that. So, can you share some memorable project, some interesting project that you have worked on till now, if you would like to share, so that I think it would help people to understand how interesting the projects are and understand in deep about your role.
Okay, so my role does not have projects as such. So what we do in my role is we use AI, and we've used not AI, but we use data to actually understand. We use data to actually understand whether, you know, what offering should we suggest to a retailer consumer. So this is what my role requires. And we have two formats. We're actually launching this across India, and we have an all India one. So I think the most memorable moment for me was probably my first launch. This is when I actually went and I presented to the field team. uh, and so just a backstory, I mean, my first launch was in Ahmedabad. So it took place in Gujarat, and I've spent 5 years there. I was an ASM in Gujarat. So it's still home for me in a lot of ways. So I think that was a very, very memorable moment for me, because it felt very like I'm going back home after a very long time to Ahmedabad. And yeah, so that was a memorable time. I learned a lot. I learned how to host an event. I learned how to present what, you know, how to launch the piece that we were driving across the country. So I think that's probably the most memorable event. Obviously, I've had a couple of launches after that. I've presented this to the entire sales team on multiple occasions, but that first one always, you know, has a special place in my heart. So yeah.
That's really amazing. So, Isha, we do have some questions from the participants. We'll take it and come back. So, first question is coding required in marketing? I think you did mention the role of AI in your job, but could you elaborate a bit on that? Like,
Yeah, so actually, I don't know coding. I mean, I'm a lawyer, so I don't know anything about coding. I really don't. And you have an analytics team. We have an analytics team too, so we work alongside them. You have external partners, so they're the ones who will actually do the AI work. What is important in my role, or rather in any role, is the analytics part. You should understand data. That's generally in the form of an Excel. So that's generally in the form of an Excel. And yeah, so you don't really require coding. You don't require too much. You should be able to understand data. Your analytics skills should be on point. And honestly, no one has that. You just learn on the job, to be honest.
That's amazing. So there are a few more questions from the participants. So that's really nice to see. So please keep posting questions. I think if it's an interactive session, it will be really nice. So we'll try to take all of your questions. So Isha, the next question is: if somebody has low academics, how can they still get an MBA? Like if the 10th, 12th, and graduation percentage is still not that good, what are the options? How can they still make it to a good college?
Um, yeah, okay, to be honest, you're asking, I wouldn't be able to give too much insight on this. I did not give CAT. I gave CET, and because I wanted to go into Jamnaal Bajaj. So to be honest, I did not give CAT. But if you're worried about the post MBA, like during your MBA for summer placements and final placements, I don't think you should be worried about that, to be honest, because okay, one, you can't really do much. You can't go and change your marks. So the only thing that you can do is probably supplement them with courses, and do better during your MBA. During your 2 years that you're there for. So supplement them, maybe do live projects. Something that helped me a lot is between my graduation, I had like a 3-month period, graduation and my MBA, before MBA course started. I had a 3-month period. So I went and did an internship, where I learned a lot about, we actually had a deep dive session on HUL and Britannia. So I picked up a couple of companies and I did a deep dive session on them just to understand how FMCG organizations work. And I think that helped me a lot. That was also something, since it was an internship, I was able to mention it on my CV. I did a couple of courses. Also, when you're in a college, I think that's the best way you can go about it. Um, Another thing that I think everyone should keep in mind is that if you're shortlisted for something, they've already seen your marks on your CV. So there is something about your CV that they actually like. So they're already looking forward to having a conversation with you. So if they've shortlisted you, I don't think you should really think too much about it during the interview. If they raise it during the interview, you can just be honest about what actually happened and what you're doing to combat it, and how you started these courses, or how you're improving or anything like that. But don't think too much when you're at the interview stage. But yeah, definitely you can't go back and change it. So do courses, do live projects, do internships. Just learn as much as you can, I would say.
Yeah, thanks, Isha, for that. I think that's very motivating. So you can't look back, but what you can do is you can still improve your skills, do an internship, study about the sector, do what you can. So, Isha, let's take the next questions. I think we have a lot of questions coming in, so the session is becoming, nice and more participant oriented. So that is amazing. So the next question we have is, how much fun is marketing like? Because I think when people don't really do the job, they have different ideas about the job. So since you have done it, we'd like to know the reality of the job, how much of it is, I think, a creative part of the job, and how much of it is the mundane part of the job. I think that's what they are trying to ask.
Yeah, so I'm not in core marketing. I'm not in core marketing. I'm not a brand manager. But my role, if you're asking me, I love my role. I love I'm being very honest. I mean, I actually love it. I look forward to working. I look forward to going to office. Uh, Probably also because I get to have a lot of conversations with the senior management. So it's generally me, my super boss, and the head of sales, who are generally sitting down and we strategize what we're supposed to do. So he's the vice president. So it's a great exposure. It's a great learning experience. When you're asking about marketing, this is just hearsay. Then again, I have no experience in marketing, to be honest. Marketing does have creative aspects involved, but we also have agencies. You partner with agencies. So agencies are the ones who do most of the creatives. You are the one who is like the center, trying to coordinate everything and bring everything together. So probably creative aspects might be 5-10%. A lot of it is your stakeholder management. Then again, please bear in mind, I have not done marketing. I don't have a brand role. So yeah.
Okay, coming to the next question, what are the skills required for being a area sales manager, and maybe how to do the role well? What are the skills that you learn through that?
Oh, so I think honestly, I think being an area sales manager is probably one of the most important roles because you learn a lot. I know sales is sort of, people are apprehensive to take on sales for whatever misconceptions or whatever preconceived notions everyone has. But I think sales is something that will teach you a lot. Um, some of the skills that are required, probably one is your interpersonal skills. I think you have to be able to be a good communicator. Communication is very vital because you have to be able to put your idea across to the other person. And you'll have a lot of stakeholders. You'll have your team directly reporting to you. You'll have to manage, like, you'll have your seniors. You'll have other ASMs working with you. You will also have your distributor partners. You'll have your CFA employees. You will also have to manage supply chain and so many other functions. So I think that is what is important, which is communication. Second, stakeholder management, which again ties in with how you have so many stakeholders, and how you have to be always, you have to um, probably you have to keep following up. That always happens because that's, you're trying to get your work done, you're getting your work done, and everyone else has their own work, so you have to follow up with them. um Third, I would say analytical skills. Analytical skills are very important because then you have to understand where the loophole is, like not the loophole, sorry, where the gap is actually, where the white space is. You have to understand, if you're not able to, if you're asked to sell a particular product, you're asked to sell Doritos, how are you going to strategize? How are you going to make sure consumers want to purchase it, or the retailers want to purchase it rather? So I think analytical skills as a whole is very, very important everywhere. So yeah, I would say I think these three skills are very important for you as an ESM.
So there's a follow-up question on that. What are the extra skills that we can focus on while pursuing MBA on our own that will help to complement?
Okay. Is it related to the ASM one, or is
Yeah,
it in general?
I think so. It could be, maybe you can mention about the ASM role, the skills that you mentioned. How did you learn and work on that during your MBA, and then for general also you could tell after that.
Okay. So what I did, I'll tell you what I did during my MBA. So I took part in a lot of case study competitions. I mean, yeah, I took part in, I think, a lot. I think most of the case study competitions, at least at the college level, I did. So I did take part. I think that taught me a lot. It taught me how to research, how to understand data. I thought case study competitions are a fantastic way to actually, learn about different aspects, different organizations, different verticals. Uh, Also, in case you clear and you're a finalist on campus, you're a campus finalist, you get to present. So that again helped me with the presentation aspect. It helped me become a better presenter, understand what and how to explain my points and put my point across. Um, Another thing I would suggest is be a part of committees. I was a part of the corporate relations committee, and I think it helps a lot, one, in working as a team, which is again very important when you're in an organization. Teamwork is probably one of the most important things. You're working alongside people. So that, and yeah, it also helped me understand how to juggle everything together, how to juggle my how to manage studies, exams, along with your, obviously you have your own personal life, you have your own hobbies. Alongside that, this is something that I took additionally, a committee. So that, and the third, I know networking gets a bad rap, don't consider it as networking, but I would say make connections with people, make friendships, have like a lifelong friendship sort of thing. You don't know when you don't know what you can learn from someone. There's so much to learn. So I think just think of it that way and make connections.
Yeah, thanks, Isha. I think that was really wonderful. So, we have the next question, that is books that you would recommend to improve reading speed for somebody who is preparing for uh, MBA examinations.
Okay, so I know there's this notion that you should be fast at reading, uh, and you should increase your reading speed. I don't think you should do that. Personally, my personal opinion is I don't think you should do that. I think what you should rather focus on is increasing your speed or taking it up to a speed where your comprehension is. What's important is your comprehension has to be right. You're supposed to be understanding and grasping what is written in the reading comprehensions. So just increasing speed is not going to help you if you're not going to understand or remember what it is. So yeah, I would suggest just okay. I love reading. To be honest, I have always been a reader all throughout my life. So I would suggest read as much as you can. Read fiction, read non-fiction. If you want to read non-fiction, some of the great books that are related slightly to MBA, you can start off with Shoe Dog, which is the autobiography by Phil Knight. It's all about Nike, and it's one of the best books that you can actually read. So you can start off with that. I promise you won't put it down. So you can definitely start off with that, and don't focus on your reading speed. Focus on your accuracy rather.
Yeah, Isha, that's amazing. So, the book by Phil Knight
Yeah.
is what you have mentioned. Okay, guys, please do check it out. And so the next question is, can somebody get good work from home being a marketing student?
A work from home job. I mean, yeah, you might be able to, but most organizations ask for headquarter roles. To be honest, even in PepsiCo, that's the situation. If you want a marketing role, most of us have to be based out of the headquarter. So yeah.
Yeah, as Isha also mentioned at the beginning, this role requires a lot of traveling
Yeah,
and
even marketing does require travel because you will visit market, you will try to speak to your stakeholders. So you will visit. Obviously, you'll have shoots and all taking place too. So you will have travel involved too in marketing.
Okay, let's come to the next question. So, what kind of certificates are required? I think a follow-up question along with that is, if you have a IIM Bangalore certificate of brand management, would that help or improve the profile?
So one certification that I did, which I think everyone should totally do, is your Excel. Excel is probably the whole and soul of everything. If you don't know Excel, you won't manage in any organization. You need to know Excel. And I'm not telling you the fancy Excel, just know till pivot table. Pivot table, VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, XLOOKUP. These are probably the most important Excel functions that you would require. So forget macros. You wouldn't really need to do macros. This is something that I did before I even joined Bajaj, to be honest, in the 3-month break that I had. So that's when I did the Excel course. I didn't really do a course on from IIM Bangalore on brand management. I've heard a lot about it. But during my 2-year MBA, I did pursue a course from Craftshala. So I did do the Craftshala courses. So I had a couple of live projects with them. So I pursued that because I wanted to understand more about marketing and sales in depth. So those are the courses that I actually did, to be
And you
honest.
did that course during your MBA itself,
Yes,
and
yes, it is always during your MBA.
okay, so was it like you were interested and you like did this course on your own, or was it like in your college, like many people were doing this course and it's
No, no,
important?
it's not. It's not a requirement. This was something I did additionally. So I did two of their courses. I did both their sales and brand management courses. So
And you would recommend it?
I do. I mean, I understood a lot. I actually went to a couple of outlets to understand. See, to be honest, with any of the courses, it's dependent on the individual how much effort you're going to put in. I mean, that's the case with anything, to be honest. So, yeah. So I did it. I enjoyed it. I went ahead and I actually visited a couple of outlets just as a general market visit to understand how products are placed. Yeah, so I did like it. I recommend it from my side because I did work on it. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Isha, for mentioning that. So we have another question. When are we supposed to do this certificate? Like, should we do it before our MBA or after, like during your MBA, or how should we actually manage this? Because I think even the preparation time must be very intensive for the students. So how to actually manage doing a certificate along with preparation?
No, I'm sure. I'm sure. I didn't do any of the certifications when I was preparing. To be honest, I did all of it after I graduated from law, rather, because I had my exam in March. I think CET was in March 2020, yeah, 2019, and I graduated in May. So I had absolutely no time because I had my final exams after that. Final exams, my year-long project submissions. So I had all of that. So I didn't get time to do it until June, until May and June. So, and my college started in August. So I had around 2, 3 months. So that's when I did my certifications. Craftshala, I did it separately during college along with my MBA.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Isha. So the next question we have is, what was your preparation strategy for cracking the MBA CET examination?
um, okay, so I actually gave um so for even for law, I gave an entrance exam which is called CLAT. So I gave that in 2014. So after that, I gave CET in 2019. So my CET preparation was basically just brushing up on the basics, to be honest. Um, we had 4 sections. Yeah. Um, yes, yeah. So basically, no, 3 sections. So we had logical, we had English, and we had math. And I brushed up on the basics. I loved English. English was my probably my strongest section. I absolutely loved English. Math and logical were also something that I liked, but I did have to work a bit more on that. Given that I'm from law and I was out of touch. I didn't deal with any math subject for 5 years. So yeah, so I was out of touch. So I started with the basics, and what helped me was mock exams. I can't stress enough the importance of mock exams. Mocks, and then obviously reviewing the mock. Just giving a mock is not the whole and soul. You have to sit and review it. And I think this applies everywhere. Just not just CET, it applies for any entrance exam that you're giving. This is something I did for CLAT, and this is something I did for CET too. So giving a mock and analyzing it and understanding where you're going wrong and minimizing your silly mistakes. Everyone makes calculation errors, everyone makes silly mistakes. Minimizing that, you will not believe how many mistakes you're making just because of that. So yeah, that's
So give a lot of mocks and analyze them well and improve
yeah.
from that. So the next question we have, Isha, is how do you manage your time, work, personal life, like working with an MNC? Because as you said, there's a lot of travel, it consumes a lot of time, and so how do you actually manage and navigate through that?
Uh Honest answer, I'm still figuring it out. Um honestly, because as an ASM, I had rather half a state that I was managing. So I was managing just the southern part of Gujarat. Um, and I had travel, but my travel was different. My travel was within my territory. So I could just, I could take a train or I could just take a cab and go to market. Here it's different because I'm flying from one city to another. So I mean, there was a time when I visited, I think, 3 cities. No, I was in 4 cities in, I think, 3 days. So that's how hectic it was for me once. This was like, I think, 4 months, 5 months ago. So, yeah, so I'm still figuring it out. But to be honest, if it's important for you, you will go ahead and do it. Like, I wake up in the morning. If I'm traveling also, I really like working out. That keeps me energized throughout the day. I love going to the gym, or I love going for a run, and I also dance. I I love all of that. So what I do is I probably wake up earlier. To be honest, if I'm traveling, I carry my stuff with me, and I'm obviously staying overnight in a hotel. So I will wake up and I will use the hotel gym, or Yeah, so that's the only way you can go about it. On a regular day, I do try to close work. That's not too late, but obviously sometimes, depending upon the month, depending upon the time and the urgency of the situation, you do end up working for longer hours. So you do understand. I am still figuring it out, but yeah, you will manage. It's also fun. I mean, you're doing so much; it's just fun at the end of the day.
Okay.
Also, sorry, just one thing. Sorry, prioritization. This is something I'm learning. Prioritization is very important. Prioritize what's important for you. This applies to work too. I have so many work streams, so many different stakeholders I'm working with, so many different deadlines. I have to prioritize what's important and what is urgent, and then go down the list. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, Isha, thanks for the tips. Like, as you mentioned, like you can still do gym, continue doing that along with work and find out ways to do that. So, yeah, that's really nice. Coming to the next question, how much of academics does it really matter while placements?
Um. See, some companies do have this thing where they have a cutoff. They want people to have certain GPA or certain percentage of scores. You can't do anything about that. You can't. I mean, if you have bad grades in the past, you can't do anything about it. Some of them have this automated process where your CV itself doesn't get picked. I mean, you can't. It's the same as work experience. Like we had some companies which came on campus which required 2 years of work experience. I had zero. I had 0 months of work experience. I had no work experience, so I didn't get shortlisted for them. And there's nothing you can do about it. But there are companies that really overlook all of this. Like I said, just supplement it with different courses, different live projects, certifications, internships. Do well during your MBA, and if you're selected for an organization, don't really care about. Don't think so much when you're sitting for a GD or an interview. Don't, honestly don't, because they've seen your marks and then they've shortlisted you. So that is something that they're liking about your profile.
So, is it like I've heard that in consulting, like you need a high CGPA, very good academics? Is it true, or what is the actual like reality for which type of sectors or companies? Just academics is not that important, but something else is important.
No, I think it depends on the organization. It depends on the company. It depends on, yeah, it differs company to company. I know there is a consulting organization that at the they actually don't really require work experience. They didn't require work ex. They didn't require high grades. Whereas there are consulting companies that require work experience and high grades. So, I mean, it just differs depending on the organization. I don't think you should think too much about it, to be honest. You can't go back and change it. And I'm saying this, I mean, I wasn't brilliant academically, uh, but yeah, so don't think too much about it. Think of how are you going to supplement all of that and make your CV stronger now.
Okay. So the next question we have is like CET and CAT. Maybe somebody is preparing for both. So like are they correlated in the sense, can some of that also help in CD and CAD preparation? Can you compare like the levels of both, uh, or do you have to prepare completely different things for CAT and CET? If you could speak on that.
Uh, I don't know head and tail about CAT preparation, but from
Okay.
what I've heard, the strategy is very different. So CET is you have you it's a speed based test. You have to be quick in CET. You have to be very quick. CAT has lesser questions and more time. CET has more questions, less time. So you have to be very quick when you're answering in CET. CAT, I think, has more in depth questions. I'm really the wrong person to guide you for CAT. CET, I can, but CAT, I really can't, being very honest.
Okay, thanks, Isha. Let's come to the next question. So, during your MBA, what should be the priority? Like, there are so many things: academics, competitions, internships, certification, so many other things. So, what should be the priority? Okay, maybe during graduation. Yeah, sorry. The question is during graduation, what should be the priority?
During graduation, for me, it depended upon the time. I interned during my breaks. So we used to have a summer break and a winter break. So I had so during my 5-year degree, I've done 10 internships. So each was 1 month long. And during um yeah, so at that point of time, it was the internship. In my 5th year, um, it was the entrance exam. In my final year, my entrance exam and my college academics, those were the things that took precedence over everything else because I wanted to clear CPT. So that took precedence over everything else. I didn't take part for moot court competitions. I didn't intern. That was the one break I didn't intern, to be honest. I interned for every break otherwise. So yeah, hands down, from my perspective, from what I did, I mean, it can differ for you. It depends again upon your priorities and what your goal is. But for me, it was entrance exam and academics in the last year, not throughout the 5-year course. Let me be clear.
Okay, coming to the next question. So, like, do we need to work overtime? I think this is a very, I mean, personal preference question. Like, it depends, right? How do you manage your time? But if you'd like to answer, Isha, like, do you have days where you have to
Yeah,
work a lot of time?
I do. I mean, everyone has such days. Everyone does, to be honest. I I do work overtime. Sometimes I end up working on the weekends too. Um, but that's the nature of my role. I mean, I'm the one who's managing all of this in India, so I have to be on top of things. I it's a lot of responsibility because I look after all the retail outlets in India, and those are in lakhs. So it is a lot of responsibility, and along with that, obviously, comes a lot of overtime work. Not a lot, but rather some overtime work, to be honest. And I'm okay with that. I'm open to that. It again depends. There are people who refuse to work overtime, but then you have to be able to manage your deliverables in the given time.
Yeah, thanks, Isha. So the next question is, when you travel, do you travel usually to cities or villages, or it's like a
Um,
combination?
this role, it's been cities. So I have been traveling only to tier one and metro cities right now. Previous role, it was rural as well as cities. So as a management trainee, I was actually okay. So let me explain you my management trainee stint so you get a better idea. So as a management trainee, I worked across all the cross functions. So I started off as a salesperson. So that was my first stint. So I had to actually go to the shop and take orders. And that was the first thing. Then I was the manager for salespersons. I mean, obviously, these are like 1 week, 2 week stints. So not too long. So I was a salesperson. Then I managed the I managed salespersons, which was a 3-month long stint. Actually, then I had a lot of shadows where I shadowed an ESM, I shadowed the revenue manager, the distribution manager, the supply chain manager. I shadowed all of them. I actually worked with the a brand team too. And my last stint was in Chennai. So I am from Bombay. I'm born and brought up in Bombay, and I don't know Tamil, to be honest. I was sent to Chennai, and I was an ASM for Chennai for my independent stint for 3 months. So I managed the team there, and yeah, that was how it was. I actually had a rural stint. I was in rural parts of Jaipur, of Rajasthan rather, for 10 days. And that's how, as a management trainee itself, we were put into the rural parts. When I was in ASM, obviously, since I looked after everything from Baroda to the Maharashtra border, we did have a lot of rural parts too. And I did visit villages. I did go to villages and cities. It was both. This role, it's purely city based. However, I mean, it depends on your role. If you're an ASM, you will have cities. If you're not a city based ASM. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Isha, for answering that. So I think the next question was around what were your group discussion preparation strategies?
Um, So yeah, for my group discussion, honestly, knowing the current topics, knowing the current affairs topics, that's something that's very important. Also something that I used, and there was something that PepsiCo, actually, the hiring managers who would come on campus actually pointed out. There's this thing called PESTLE, like PESTLE. So basically, that was something I used to use in school actually to write essays. During the language exams that we would have for the board exams and all. So I used to use this there. So it basically stands for politics, economics, legal, technology. Um, Politics, economics, social, technology, legal, and environmental. So basically, look at a subject or a topic that you're given from all these perspectives. So I remember I had my topic was cryptocurrency, and the point that I had put across during my PepsiCo interview, during my PepsiCo GD, was about the legality or the legal aspect of cryptocurrency in India. And that is something that the hiring manager, the team that had come on campus, remembered. And that's something that they mentioned because no one else could actually mention that. So I think that is something that's very helpful. So you can definitely use that and read up on current affairs. Current affairs is very important. Most of the questions are on that. That sustainability, those are the key words that people are looking for, the key topics.
Yeah, thanks, Isha. I think that's very helpful. Remember the PESTLE short form, and I think you can cover a broad range from that on any topic. So it may even help you for your MBA when you have you have to write even in CAT when you give the CAT in the final round. I think you have to write half an hour something on any topic, and that is the final
Yeah, so
round.
it
So
can definitely help you
yeah,
with it.
I'll help you there also. Okay, so the next question is, what are your working hours usually?
Um, Again, depends. This is going to be my answer everywhere, I feel. But yeah, no, I actually reach office by around 9:30ish. And I mean, we don't have office times, like we don't have strict timings as such. But I generally end up reaching by 9:30. So I want to start my day early because that's a couple of hours that I get just to myself to finish off my tasks. And then I try to wrap up by around 6:30, 7. This is on a good day. Sometimes, obviously, you end up working. There have been times where I've worked at 11, 12 in the night too, but they're not too many.
Sure. Thanks, Isha. So the next question is, how long did you prepare for CET exam, and what resources did you use, or are you using now currently to stay updated with the business news?
Okay,
Okay, I think there are two different questions. So let's come to the first question first.
so how long did I prepare for
Yeah.
CET? Um, my CET was in March. I think I started in June or July. So you can do the math. That's I think what 8 months, 8 9 months. Yeah, but
Yes. Yeah.
to be honest, first I did the basics and then mocks. I literally just kept doing mocks. I took mocks from a lot of institutes, a lot of books that I used. So I kept doing mocks over the weekend. So yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Isha. So the next question is, what resources do you use to stay updated with the business news?
Oh, Business Youth, Economic Times. I really like Economic Times. That's something I really like as a newspaper. And something that I used to do as a law student was refer to Hindu. The Hindu. So you get the Hindu business line, and you also get Hindu. So that was something because the language is really good. So this was something one of my professors had asked us to do. So the language is very good actually. So yeah. So you can actually refer to Hindu and I used to use that for comprehension. I used to just read those passages and time myself and see how much I've understood, what my comprehension levels were. So, so I mean, I am understanding. I have current affairs knowledge, and I also have, a practice of comprehension. So that's how I used to do it.
Sure. Thanks, Isha. So for the audience, I'd like to mention we have just the last few minutes of the session remaining. So please do put in if you have any questions. Please feel free to put in any questions. We'll try to cover all of your questions if possible, but we do have limited time. So if you have anything, do put it now. This is the time. So, Isha, why didn't you give cat? I understand it's a personal decision, but like, what was your thinking behind that?
To be honest, I mean, you might not agree. Most people will not agree with my reasoning. Um, but I honestly, my reasoning was I stayed in Ahmedabad for 5 years. I already spent 5 years away from home. I moved out at the age of 18. I was there till the age of 23. And I didn't want to leave Bombay again. I had a college in Bombay, which was Jamnal Bajaj. And I just wanted that. That is the only reason, to be honest. I didn't want to leave Bombay. So I didn't want, I mean, I didn't see a sense in giving cat because most of there are no IIMs here. So I didn't want to leave. And Jamnal Bajaj still is in one of the top 10 colleges in India. So I was very keen to go there. And that was my basic reason. It's not a reason that people will agree with, but I've stayed outside for 5 years. And I'm not based out of Bombay anymore again. And I haven't been so since the last 2 years. So I think that in hindsight, that was a great decision for me.
Okay, so the next question is, according to you, what are the few best colleges for marketing?
Oh, that's actually a good question because you're right. Most colleges do tailor themselves to finance, but then again, that doesn't mean they don't have marketing companies coming on campus. We had PepsiCo coming on campus. If you see our placement reports, we did have a lot of colleges coming on, marketing companies coming on campus for us. We're also primarily a finance. We're known for finance, um, but yeah, you do have companies coming on campus for marketing. So yeah, there are no marketing from as far as I know. There are no marketing specific colleges. If you're looking for advertising, there's obviously Mica, which also has great companies coming on campus.
Sure. Thanks, Isha. So we have another question. Can you please elaborate on making a study plan and strategy for CET as a working professional? How to start and progress on the plan? I think they need a detailed plan on and strategy. Like as a working professional, I think it's hard to try to go and figure out yourself and then what to choose, what to study, how much to do. So if somebody has a detailed study plan, they're looking for that.
So I didn't take classes for CET. I didn't take coaching for CET because I was not based in Bombay. I didn't have the time. I was studying. So I didn't have the time. So for that, I used books. So you can actually supplement it with. I used Arun Sharma. That's one of the books that I used. I think it was Arun Sharma. Yeah, Arun Sharma. I used his maths, they have logical. So I used that, and then I also used. I think there was this author called R.D. Sharma, if I'm not wrong. He has like a couple of logical reasoning books. So I used those. For English, I mean, this is gonna sound very textbooky, but the good old Renan Martin, that's what I used for English. Um, yeah, that's what I used. And for vocabulary, I used Word Palm Made Easy by Norman Lewis. That's something I'd used during CLAT, and it's a fantastic book. So I used Word Palm Made Easy for CLAT, and I tried to finish off the basics in a couple of months that I had. Um, that's the first thing I did, and then I just kept focusing on mocks. Yeah, I gave many, many, many mocks from many places, and then analyzed them. That's the only thing. And then I devised a strategy on how I'm going to and how I'm going to go ahead with the exam on that day itself. Which section will I take first? How much time will I allocate to every section? Because bear in mind, CET does not have a time limit for every section. So I didn't have like 30 questions and then I would get like 25 minutes. There was nothing like that. There were no sectional times and it was just overall thing. So I think devising a strategy for time was something that was very important for me.
Yeah. Isha, so there's next question on how to improve verbal ability and reading comprehension. I think you do have mentioned many tips about reading and everything, but if there's something which you have not mentioned, you would like to add on to that.
Um, No, I think just one thing when you're doing anything for reading comprehension, if you don't know a word, note it down and keep revising that. Make flashcards, not exactly flashcards, but maybe a book. I did this for maths too, by the way. I had a list of, I had a math book. I had a book where I mentioned all the errors that I would make. It was like an error log. I mentioned all the mistakes. I mentioned, I'd written down different equations, just shortcuts that I had found out along the way. Same for logical and English. Any vocabulary words, any tips that I found, anything that I understood that, okay, maybe if I look at a logical reasoning question, like, um, if I read a strengthening argument, we had strengthening and weakening. So if this is the strategy that I'm going to take to tackle a strengthening question, so I would note that down. So just pointers like that. I think that is not just for verbal and reading comprehension, but for absolutely everything. So yeah, that.
Sure. So for the audience, if you have any last question, please do let us know. We'll take that. Otherwise, we will end the session soon. So, Isha, we'll wait for the audience. Meanwhile, I had one
Sure.
question. So, Isha, you mentioned like you strategize, for example, how to increase the sales of Doritos, which is one of the brands that you have. So, what is the actual process? Like, I want to know the interesting details of it. How do you go about actually increasing the sales? Like in brief, if you could describe how does it actually work? It seems very fascinating.
Uh, to be honest, I am not in the position to answer this detailed and question, but I will tell you the basic. So there are two ways to increase sales. This is not just for PepsiCo and any organization. It's either new store growth or same store growth. What is new store growth? You add a new outlet. So you're not servicing a particular outlet. You go to that retailer and ask them that, these are our products, this is our offering. Can you start keeping our products? Obviously, they will have a lot of, back and forth. They will ask for things. You'll be like, no, these are the benefits that you're getting. So that is one, which is new store growth. The second one is same store growth. Same store growth is basically increasing your range. If you're selling 5 products in one outlet, how are you going to get it to 10? Or how are you going to get to 7? Let's say 7. So increasing the range from 5 to 7 is SSG, which is range selling. Same store growth. And yeah, that's how you increase the penetration. So this is how you will generally increase sale across all organizations. So this is the basic method of increasing it.
Sure. Sure. Thank you so much, Isha. I think it's been a wonderful session. So, okay, we have one last question, so we'll take that up also. So, what is your advice to improve quant maths?
So quant,
Yeah.
so there are a lot of questions that can be solved with just the equation. If you know the equation and you know which values to plug in, there are a lot of questions that can be solved like that. So I by-hearted the equations. Like the equations were at the tip of my. So I knew them. I knew them really, really well, down pat. And equations are something that were very important. Then just the basic, simple mental math calculation. Just the basics, like any multiplication. I'm not asking for any complicated mental math, Vedic math. I honestly don't know any of it. So I can't and I don't do. But just the basic calculation, you have that in mind. It's very easy to solve it. Third, minimize your silly errors. Minimize your mistakes. There are so many times, you misread a sum, you misread a problem. So that is, you misread signs, inequality signs, you misread that. That's somewhere, where you have to be very careful. And fourth, just practice. I don't think there's any substitute for practice when it comes to math. So yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's it, Isha, for the questions part. So thank you so much, Isha, for giving out your time and inspiring people and giving them a lot of information. I think it was very helpful, very valuable, and amazing. Thank you so much for doing the amazing work that you did.
No problem at all. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. If there's anything, please feel free to reach out. Absolutely anytime. But thank you so much. And all the very best. I'm sure you guys will do wonders.